Well, I know from my own experience that these militant homosexuals have thoroughly infiltrated my order. Began way back in the 40s. No doubt during the Second World War as draft dodgers. They went to Catholic seminaries to get their deferments. They knew if they went into the military and were caught, they would be discharged as undesirables. And so they sought refuge in Catholic seminaries. By 1952, these homosexual infiltrators had gained control of my Dominican province. Because at that time, the Dean of Students, we called him the Student Master, Father James Bernard Walker, wrote a letter to the Major Superior and to his council begging them for help. That he had a homosexual problem so serious in our Dominican seminary that he couldn't control it. And he begged the provincial superior and his staff to help him. They didn't even answer his letter. Once these homosexuals get in, they start bringing in other homosexuals. And they start forcing out those who will not go along with them. By 1968, these homosexuals had complete control not only of our Dominican seminary, but also of St. Bernard's Diocesan Seminary in Dubuque, Iowa. By 1969, the situation was so bad that St. Bernard's had to be shut down, and all the seminarians had to be sent home. It was the only way they could put an end to rampant homosexuality in our seminaries. The present Major Superior of the Dominicans in the Midwest, Donald J. Gergen, was thrown out of St. Bernard's Seminary a year before it was closed down for homosexual activities. He was immediately taken in to our seminary across the highway. By that time, the communist infiltrators and homosexual Dominicans had such control of our seminary, they brought Donald J. Gergen right into it. Even before ordination, he was made a professor, a teacher in our seminary, and even before he was ordained, he was made the Dean of Studies. It was during this time that he taught a course to our seminarians on celibacy. A course that was so disgusting and degrading that the fine young men that I had sent to our seminary from the university at which I taught in Austin, Texas, these men left that seminary in disgust. And based on his lectures to our seminarians, he wrote this notorious book, published in 1974, The Sexual Celibate, in which he talks about healthy homosexuality. As a matter of fact, he goes so far to say that if every man isn't at least a little homosexual, well, he's pathological, he's sick. In other words, we suffer from homophobia. That's another word coined by the so-called gay ideology. They're not the sick ones. We're the sick ones. Because we find oral and anal sex disgusting and repulsive. Also, he says there's absolutely nothing wrong in masturbation. Indeed, he encourages teenagers to masturbate. He tells them that it's relaxing. It relieves stress. It will help them get to sleep at night if they masturbate. He encourages married men who have to travel in their work. He encourages them to masturbate because then that will help to preserve their fidelity to their wives back home. They won't go out looking for prostitutes if they can masturbate. This is also true of priests and religious. It's all right for them to masturbate. There's no sin in masturbation. Well, to show you what complete control these homosexual Dominicans have in my order, by 1985, they elected Donald J. Gergen their major superior, the top Dominican in the Midwest. During the elective chapter, before the election actually took place, and his name was put up in nomination, a classmate of mine got up and he said, "You can't elect this man. It's known all over the country. He was thrown out of St. Bernard's for homosexual activities. He's written this infamous book, The Sexual Celibate, promoting healthy homosexuality and masturbation and contraception, and in which, incidentally, in one chapter he unleashes a vicious attack against our Blessed Mother, denying that she is ever virgin." Well, sodomites hate our Blessed Mother. See, part of their ideology is that, well, they can't help it. They were born this way. They have to engage in these frightful perversions. Well, anyone who believes that can't stand the ever-Virgin Mary, because she stands in contradiction to their whole ideology, their whole degrading lifestyle. Well, the Dominicans elected him anyway. So what does that tell you about the majority of Dominicans electing a known sodomite to be their leader? A year later, in 1986, he took over our once great high school. Began back in the 20s. A high school that at one time had a national reputation for scholarship. Fenwick High School in Oak Park, Illinois, named after the first Dominican to come to America, Bishop Fenwick. But once Gergen got control of the province, he took control of that high school. All the older Dominicans who had taught religion at Fenwick High School for years, some of them their whole priestly life, he removed. He forced them out of Fenwick High School and replaced them with his young homosexual Dominicans. This, too, according to Father Enrique Rueda, is part of the game plan of this so-called gay liberation movement. Infiltrate the schools, get into the classrooms as teachers, and then use the classroom to encourage young people, if not to get involved in sodomy, at least to accept it. And they do it, again, indirectly. They don't come out and say, well, engage in sodomy. They tell the kids it's all right to masturbate. Now you have a classroom of teenage boys and you tell them not only that it is not sinful, there's nothing wrong with masturbation, you tell them that it's helpful, that it's relaxing, you can relieve tension, it helps you get to bed at night, get to sleep at night. What are these boys going to start doing if they haven't done it already? And because it's taught to them in a classroom setting, they're going to talk about it afterwards. Well, do you masturbate? What do you do? How do you masturbate? Why don't you show me how you do it? That is sodomy. Two males masturbating one another, that is sodomy. And this is the ultimate perversion of the American church, that our once great Catholic schools are being used to train sodomites and to turn our children into sexual perverts. Well, I tried to correct this situation internally. I confronted Donald J. Gergen. I laid the evidence out before him. His only reaction, well, his initial reaction, and I'm quoting his exact words, I'll never forget them. He said, homosexuality is becoming more acceptable now. Well, of course it is, with Judas priests like he teaching it to seminarians. Well, I appealed to other Dominicans to help me. They treated me like a leper. They wanted nothing to do with my efforts to turn this situation around. I appealed to Rome. The Vatican told me to take it up with the Major Superior, Damien C. Byrne. I wrote to Byrne. He told me, well, take it up with the Vatican. And so I was forced to go public, simply to warn Catholic parents, look out. These homosexual Dominicans are after your children. They want to turn them into perverts. And for that I was suspended, and I was silenced. Well, I did appeal to the Vatican. Prominent canonist here in the United States put on retainer Count Capone, accredited to the Vatican, to plead my case. After several months, I phoned this canonist and asked him how my appeal was going. What are my chances of getting my faculties back? He said, your chances are zilch. And I said, why? He said, because there are too many homosexuals in the Vatican Curia who are backing up Donald J. Gergen. So the Vatican has been infiltrated, not only by communists, but also by these militant homosexual priests and bishops.